Hello, my name is Kaylynn Reyna, and this is my Education 1306 course project for the spring of 2023. So, my content level is high school math and pre-calculus specifically, and that includes the grades 11th and 12th or junior and senior year of high school. So these are the TEKs for pre-calculus. There were lots of them, and the ones I chose specifically were Section 3, which was Relations and Geometric Reasoning, and I chose Section H, which says, use the characteristics of an ellipse to write the equation of an ellipse with center HK. So overall, we're going to be looking at ellipses, and this is what I based my activity on and my project on. So for my TEKS activity, there's a lot of words here, but bear with me. So what we have is, what I'm envisioning is the students will have a Desmos, they will go online to the Desmos Graphing Calculator, which is a free online mathematics site, and I will have several different shareable graphs with different pictures in them, and as it says here, there'll be pictures of an aerial view of the Colosseum, the Batman logo, a specific angle of a coffee cup, the Tima Istanbul showroom, and the rotation of the Earth around the sun. And with these pictures, I want these students to see that there are ellipses in everyday life, all around us, everywhere we look. These are everywhere. And so with Desmos, I can import the pictures into these shareable graphs. And on that first picture, I want to have the ellipse equation, and they will be able to edit one part of the ellipse equation to get it to match over the picture and lay over the ellipse on the picture so the ellipses match. And then on the next picture, I want the student to be able to edit two parts of the formula to match the ellipse. And then on the next picture, there'll be more parts they can edit, and on the next picture, more parts, and so on, until they get to that last picture and they have to create the formula themselves. And so the point is the students are just progressing with each picture, and eventually they can write their own ellipse formula or ellipse equation. And they will be in groups of 2 or 3 and be able to work with each other on this and also converse with me. And the way they will learn about the equation as well is I want to be able to give them just a short lecture, probably on Google Slides, just about the different parts of the equation, and they can do the activity and learn about it themselves. So here are the different pictures that I suggested. I can use so many more everyday examples, but as you can see, there's the Batman logo, Coliseum, the Istanbul showroom, the coffee cup, and the rotation of the Earth around the sun. As you can see, they're good ellipses, and students would match the ellipse equations to match the ellipses over those ellipses in real life. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it says technology. So this is the technology used in this assignment. So the students have to use laptops, and on those laptops, they will use the online free site Desmos Graphing Calculator. And the Google Slides comes from me as the teacher. I will probably be using a Promethean board or a projector to just share some short slides about just giving an introduction to ellipses, and possibly even going to Desmos myself and showing them specifically what I want them to do on that website. So for a backup plan for this, in case just all technology fails or something goes horribly wrong, the backup plan is to use the old but trusty method of how ellipses have been drawn since forever. So you use paper, pencil, 2 pins, and a string, and as is demonstrated in the photo, you set up the 2 pins where you need, and you draw the ellipse. So what I would do is print out the pictures of those real life areas or real life things, and they would draw the ellipses around them. The only thing is that it wouldn't be as interactive. They wouldn't be able to change the equations, and I would probably have to lecture more so they understand the equations better. So I feel like it wouldn't click as well with students learning ellipses this way, but it just depends on each student, and if worse comes to worse, this is a good backup plan. So for ISTE standards, we have learner, leader, citizen, collaborator, designer, facilitator, and analyst. Now going into each of those for my activity. So for ISTE learner, as it says here, students are able to create their own ellipses and use new technology to learn about ellipses. So they're creating these themselves, they're integrating technology into this so that way they know how to use it online as well. And as the teacher, will learn from this assignment and see how well the students did. So I will be able to change it in the future, make it harder, make it easier, just see what needs to be changed about it, if anything. I will also make sure that this assignment can be done by any student, because there are so many different ways for students to learn out there, and I want each student to be able to learn this and to grasp it and to understand it and hopefully enjoy it in the process. And I will also stay updated on the best practices for teaching this subject, ellipses. If a new way comes out or if I see a teacher with a better activity, I want to be able to adapt my technology and adapt my activity to help my students learn in the best way possible. For ISTE leader, I as the teacher will reach out to other teachers and stakeholders to improve the classes. I want to be in constant communication with other experts on the subject and, as I said, other teachers to be sure that my lessons are as effective as possible, including this specific activity. I want to speak out for the students, or if there's any other problems. If there's a student really struggling, or if there's any problem, really, I want to be able to communicate good with, I want to be able to communicate well with them and be able to communicate their problem to the people that can help. And then I also want to share the technologies used in class, probably with other teachers. If they like my assignment, I want to be able to share it with them. Same as if I liked one of their assignments, I would want to be able to utilize that somehow. So just being in constant communication with others. For ISTE Citizen, the students will learn how to safely navigate the internet and technological resources. So they're using their laptop, they're using the online Desmos graphing calculator. There's not much outside of that, but I guess if they needed to research more about ellipses, if they wanted, if they were more curious or they were just still struggling with it, I would want them to be able to safely find resources to do that. And so I, as the teacher, will teach them safety online, knowing where to find those credible sources, knowing if it's a good website or not, if it's credible. And I also want to mentor students with these different technologies to make sure they are as safe as possible at all times. For ISTE Collaborator, students will collaborate with others for the ellipse activity, and they may also communicate with the teacher. So I want them to be able to learn how to communicate well with each other. In the rubric later on in the slideshow, that is one of the aspects that I graded, was how well they communicate with each other, because I want them to be able to learn how to communicate from me and be able to take that and communicate with each other. And so I will demonstrate to that to them by collaborating with other teachers, talking with them, seeing how they teach it, how I teach it, and it's always being in constant communication by finding ways with experts to improve the activity. Maybe someone comes along and they say there's a better way to do this. I'm going to listen. And I will also want to demonstrate cultural competency when communicating. For ISTE Designer, students will learn how to create their own ellipses. They are engaged and actively learning. So this is a very creative assignment where they're able to make the ellipse themselves at the end. And Desmos is very interactive where you can get very creative with the ellipses. You can make them as big as you want, as little, and it's just a very interactive website that really allows for creativity. And I want to use that technology to adapt the assignment, hopefully make it better, not worse, but make it better for each student, maybe make it harder. And I also want to design the activity to maximize active deep learning, help them get the most out of it that they can. For ISTE facilitator, I will create a space where students take ownership of their learning goals. I want them to want to learn. I want them to want to learn about these ellipses, and be able to understand it. I want them to teach them uh, how to be creative and just how to collaborate with others and just create a good environment for them. I will also manage the use of technology in the classroom. I don't want to overuse technology with my students, but I want there to be a healthy balance. I want to use the activity to have students design their own ellipses. I want them to have that fun way to learn about this, and I want to nurture creativity. For ISTE analyst, the student will use the rubric to fully complete the creative interactive assignment. And I will use the rubric to grade the students, use the grades and feedback from the class to see what needs improvement, and also give feedback to the students themselves. I think communication between the student and teacher is very important. and I want them to know exactly what I'm looking for in grading the assignment. And now for design principles, these students are learning how to navigate and create in Desmos. They can look at and analyze the slides that I will use to demonstrate the activity. And for me as the educator, I will use slides to demonstrate the activity and introduce ellipses, and then I will move to Desmos to further demonstrate the activity. I want them to fully understand ellipses, so that way I'm not just throwing them in there and just letting them figure it out on their own, even though I am, in a way, letting them figure it out on their own by letting them mess with Desmos. So for higher order thinking, there's SAMR, SAMR, and RAT for SAMR, or SAMR. My activity, I believe, falls under augmentation because it has the students graphing ellipses, but they're also modifying them and seeing how they're used in real life. They're able to mess around with each part of the equation without affecting the other part, so that way they can see how each individual part of the equation works. And they will also be interacting with each other in groups of 2 or 3, so that is why this falls under augmentation. For RAT, it falls under amplification because Desmos allows for a lot more than just graphing. They can interact with each other, they can learn it better, they are able to be creative and have a little more freedom when doing this assignment. So for more higher orders of thinking, Bloom's taxonomy, this activity goes all the way through the levels to the create level, because the students understand ellipses. They learn how to draw them and create formulas for their own ellipses. And for Webb's depth of knowledge, this activity I believe to use level 1 or 2, because they have to use different parts of the formula, but they also have to be able to manipulate it and understand it. So I made a rubric for grading this assignment. It is a summative assessment, and as you can see, there are 4 different columns. It's a pretty easy grading scale as far as it goes, because I want the students to be more focused on learning ellipses and getting a good grade. And so they're getting graded on graphing, accuracy, and collaboration. For graphing, I want just to see that they've done all the ellipses. It says 5 in there, but they could have done more. I can have more on the assignment in the future, less, just that they did all the ellipses. They tried. And for accuracy is how well they lined up those ellipses with the pictures that they were supposed to match. So the pictures that the ellipses were supposed to sit on, match up with. How accurate those were. And then the last part is collaboration. I want the students to be able to work well together. I want them to learn how to communicate with each other. And that's because that's a very big part of life. Now for differentiation, looking at how this activity is good for all different types of learners. For gifted students, they can continue playing with Desmos and they can continue working with ellipses, maybe import their own photos or just work more with the ellipses and just be more creative with that. You can spend hours on there, easy, just messing around with different types of things of math. And then for English learners, the students should be able to understand pretty well about the equation because it's only letter variables that you're using. You're not using full-on words, word problems, these big old math terms. You're just using those placeholders, those variables. And also, if those English learners happen to have Spanish as their first language, I would maybe be able to communicate with them since I speak Spanish myself. But of course, that's only one language out of several possibilities. And then for special needs, I intentionally made this activity where there's lots of pictures. You can change the color on the graph. You can mess around with all the different numbers. So it's very creative. There's so much freedom in it. And so it's not very stressful or tied down or specific. And I will also give direct help to any student with special needs that needs it. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. And here are my sources that I used for this presentation. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed it.